Good morning, guys. Welcome back to Lick Branch Farms. My name is David. It's a cool, not so much cold, but cool morning here in Central North Carolina. Today is February the 2nd, the first weekend in February 2025, and the sun is just now coming up over the treetops. We got a lot of work planned for today. It's an exciting day here on the farm, and I'm gonna tell you why right after this. All right, so a few videos back, we got this mulch and these mats laid down over these two beds here where we were intending on planting carrots, but as you remember, it was going to be too cold that week. Hey, cat. She ain't no help. All she's good at chasing pests out from around here. But anyway, we didn't plant them because we knew it was going to get cold, and it would really have been a waste of seed because some would have probably germinated and some probably wasn't. But looking at the weather, we've got a perfect opportunity to go ahead and get these guys planted. What I want to do today is get at least 2 rows of carrots planted, and I want to get at least 2 rows of radishes planted. And if I got enough compost, I want to get 1 row of green onions planted. So that's 5 rows we're going to try to get done today. If I can stretch that compost that I went and picked up, me, Jace, and Betsy went and picked up a load of compost on Thursday. And if I can stretch it that far, we're going to try to do 3 rows today. I don't know, there's a lot of compost back there. And you know, I think I can get 3 rows out of it, and so we're gonna try to get that, at least those rows planted today, and try to get them watered in. You can see that's a lot of compost. That's some good looking stuff too. So yeah, what I've got to do now is I'm gonna get the mats up on the next 3 rows. These rows here, I got to cut these Brussels sprouts and get these mats here up, and then what we'll do is put our 30-inch bed strings out, stretch them across here, and we'll get to putting some compost down. But before we get with that, guys, I'm gonna carry you in here and give you a shot of what we got going on in the hydroponic house and in the other tunnel. Give you a shot of the tomatoes and the cucumbers and everything else. I've moved a lot more stuff out here since we had this mild weather, and they're doing great. They're doing great. They're doubled in size. But yeah, let's go right here in the hydroponic tunnel. Let's see. Turn the water off. So arugula, bright light Swiss chard, a little bit of spinach, and this is some failed attempt at some leggy lettuce that I had. It's going to come out. I got some more lettuce started. Red spinach, green spinach, 2 empty trays, I think were Swiss chard. Kale, curly kale. We took 2 rows to market. Bex sold every bit of that. Lacinato kale. I haven't started cutting on it yet. I want to see it get a little bigger, but next week at market it will be ready to go. This is my next round of lettuce that will go to market, and I got a grow light on it, and I'll do a video and explain to you what's going on with this grow light here. You're going to love it. That thing's absolutely amazing. Bok choy, beet greens, 2 empty trays where I cut mustard last week, 2 empty trays where I cut turnip greens last week. And we got the rest of the in-ground lettuce. We're going to be working hard on it this week to get rid of it, and so I can make some room. I got to get started on this other side of the hydroponic tunnel. I'm running out of crops. I'm selling so fast that I'm having to plant really frequently, and I mean the time's not working out right. I'm selling faster than I can grow it, if that makes sense. Okay, in the other tunnel, we've got a lot of stuff germinating in here. Most of this is cabbage and broccoli and more cabbage. All of this right here is new stuff, and this is on its first wave of fertilizing. I just fertilized these guys for the first time. Red cabbage, yellow beets, red beets. That's some curly kale, Swiss chard, and cabbage. Sugar snap peas, green onions. These guys are the ones that's going out, and you can see they're kind of growed out of where that cold got them. They're looking good. Cabbages and more red beets. In the back of the tunnel, you remember these tomatoes and cucumbers. The tomatoes are doing great. They got bit by a little bit of frost in here. These guys were actually on the back. and we're touching that frost blanket, and I mean, it got them, but they're going to grow out of that. They're nothing to worry about. They'll be fine. More cucumbers. All of those are picklers. More cucumbers here. All of these are slicers. Sakura cherry tomatoes, eggplants, and that's leftover tomatoes that I'm hanging on to in case I lose something when I get ready to start planting, which will not be too long. All right, guys, so if you're still with us at this point, I'm explaining to you what we got going on now. I've got the first bed laid out. That's a 30-inch bed. What I'm gonna do now is start getting compost in the wheelbarrow, and we'll put a thin layer across of it. But before, you probably want to walk this thing, pull out any weeds that we see. If you remember in the last video when we were out here doing these beds, these are from last year. These beds were formed last year. They were grown in, planted in, tarped, all that good stuff. So, you know, they have been through at least one season covered, and that's going to give us the benefit of mostly being weed free. Now, most of the weeds that you see in here are probably right there where the holes were, where the plants came through, because they're spaced out like that. But yeah, for the most part, these beds should be weed free, and that's a good thing, because we're going to mulch the top of them, and that's going to give it another layer of protection to where we can grow in it. Now, I did get some compost a couple years ago that had a real bad pigweed problem, and if you guys know anything about pigweed, man, that stuff is hard to get rid of. I mean, you literally got to dig it out. And I still got remnants of it, you can see right here on the end, and I'll probably take care of that here in the next week or two. But for right now, I'm gonna get some mulch on that first bed, and then lay off the second one, and the third one, hopefully I'll have enough to do those three. If not, we'll definitely get 2 beds done, and then I want to tarp all of those, and I'll show you how we're going to set up the irrigation. All right, guys, after a lot of wheelbarrow loads and a lot of shoveling and a lot of raking, I got these 3 beds put in. Now, we only needed 2 for the radishes, but we got 3 out of that truckload, and there's still a little bit back there. So this row here is going to be for green onions, and I won't do that on this video. I'll probably do that during the middle of the week, but we're going to concentrate on getting these 2 rows of carrots and these 2 rows of radishes planted. And I'm going to start with 2 rows of mokum. That is my go-to carrot. I mean, it pretty much performs flawlessly for us. And I got sugar snaps, and I got a new one from Johnny's, and I'll have to tell you what it is later on because I can't remember right off the top of my head, but we'll wind up putting them in on down the beds there after we get these in. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna get off of here. I'm gonna put this I'm gonna put a scoop of a garden tone on each one of these beds, and I'm gonna rake it in, and then we'll get the jang out, and I'll explain to you the rollers we're going to use, the spacing we're going to use for the carrots, and also for the radishes. All right, guys, so we're gonna set the spacing up on our carrots, and what we want is about a 1 inch to a 1.5 inch spacing. And on the jang, you can see right here it's got a spacing chart, tells you what sprockets to use. And in order for us to get that, we got to use an 11 and an 11 in the front and 11 in the back. That's gonna give us about an inch and a half spacing, and I've had pretty good luck with that. It seems like sometimes it's crowded, but yeah, they have a tendency to push themselves out of the way, or you know, you're not going to grow, all of them's going to grow 100%, but that's what we're going to shoot for anyway. So we'll get these 11 and 11s in, and then I'll move on to the hopper and show you how to set that up. So that's what it should look like, 11 here and 11 here. And right now, according to this chart, with a 24-inch roller, that's going to give us an 1.5 inch spacing. I'm going to put all these back on here. We don't lose them because we definitely will need them. Tighten this up. All right, so moving on to the hopper. This is the seed hopper on the Jane seeder, and I know y'all seen tons of videos on these. And right now there's 25,000 carrot seeds in that hopper. And what we want to do is make sure that the roller we're using, and by the way, that's a XY24. that I've got in here, and I've got the brush all the way down. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take and turn that wheel of my hand to make sure that I'm getting seed dropping. And you can tell that we are. So you want to double check that every time that you get ready to use it to make sure it's calibrated right, and to make sure that you got seed coming out, because the only other way you're gonna be able to tell is by weighing your seed before you start and after you start to see how much you put down. And that's really time consuming because you got to take it out, dump it in, all that good stuff. Anyway, it's easier just to do it by hand so you know and you see that you're getting seed out of it. So what we're going to do now is put this in, and we're going to make a pass down through here. And we're going to try to get 6 rows in each bed. So that'll be 12 50-foot rows of carrots. All right, guys, so that's what we got left out of there, and that's probably enough to do 2 more rows. But we got 6 rows in each one of those beds, so we got a total of 12 rows of carrots there. I'm gonna get over here and do the radishes real quick so we can get the irrigation set up. All right, so the first one we're gonna do is the French breakfast, and it's a kind of a narrowish white and purple, pinkish tip. Decent sized seed. I mean, it's not incredibly large, but we're going to use the X24 roller for those. That seems to work out good for us in the past. And we're going to keep the same seed space, and we're going to keep these at 1.5 inches, just like we did the carrots, just so we don't have to change the. And get those in there, and I'll give you a shot of what they look like. So that's French breakfast seed. You can see they're not incredibly small, but they're not huge also. But we're going to do those first, roll them out at the same spacing as the carrots, and then we'll move on to the round reds. All right, guys, so there we have it. We got 2 rows of Mokum carrots with 6 rows in each one. So that's 12 rows there. We got 6 rows of French breakfast radishes, and we got 6 rows of Donata radishes, the round red radish. All right, guys, so here we are. We got the irrigation set up. I got the sprinkler running, and I'm getting wet out here, so I'm throwing on plenty of water. I may have to move those guys down another row because it looks like I'm hitting all the way out to right here, and I don't want to waste water, so you know, I'll probably give it this round here, and then but right before I tarp them, move it over. I could probably get away with moving it 2 rows and still cover what I need to cover. All right, so we are going to let that water in probably for a good 30 minutes, let it get good and saturated, and then we'll decide what we want to do as far as moving them. And I may do this a couple times a day just to make sure they're good and wet. We're going to get down to 40 tonight, so there's no risk of it freezing. So we'll go ahead and wet them down really good, and then we'll tarp the carrots again, and we're going to tarp the radishes too, because that method works for both. I mean, it works for carrots, it works for radishes. So we're going to tarp all 4 of those rows, and then I'll decide how I want to move these sprinkler risers and all that. So late this afternoon, before we call it quits, I'll give you a shot of everything. All right, guys, so the sun's going down. We started today, the sun was coming up over here, and now the sun's going down over there. Been a long day. So right now I got all the mats down, and I'm running the sprinklers, kind of weigh them down a little bit, keep the wind from lifting them so easy. Sometime this week we're gonna get out here and we're gonna plant that row of green onions and go ahead and get a jump start on that. Guys, I'm fixing to call it a day. Go up here and get me something to eat and relax the rest of the evening. But guys, if you have not subscribed to our channel, reach over here in this right hand corner and click that subscribe button and click the bell notification so you get notified every time we put out a video. And as always, guys, I appreciate you stopping by. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.